I think what it symbolises, obviously, is continuity more than anything else. So Mojtaba Khamenei, he's 56 years old, so he's pretty sprightly and young for a supreme leader, and he is not only a senior cleric, he's very, very close to the Revolutionary Guards.
Let's take a look at some of the other key points in the conflict this morning. Iran has a new supreme leader. He's Mojtaba Khamenei, son of the previous leader Ayatollah Ali Hamayi.
Well done. The time. I can't believe we've both had to do that.
One down, 20 more to go.
No, we've done it all right. The Times' Richard Spencer says the choice means Iran has thrown down the gauntlet to President Trump. The younger Khamenei is a mid-level cleric who is as hardline as his father and closely allied to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps.
Donald Trump told a Fox News anchor in a phone call that he was, quote, not happy with the choice.
There have been more attacks overnight in the Gulf. Bahrain's health ministry says at least 32 civilians have been left wounded after an Iranian drone attack, and the UAE is reporting that its air defence systems were responding to a missile attack.
Well, elsewhere, nearly 400 Lebanese people have been killed in strikes and clashes as Israel moves to eliminate Hezbollah targets and Iranian proxies. Louise Callaghan is in Lebanon right now. She's the Sunday Times foreign correspondent, and she joins us. Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Shall we begin with the new supreme leader? We know a little about him, but not very much. What does the choice mean, do you think? What's he like?
So Mojtaba Khamenei, as Richard, my colleague, said, this is clearly throwing down the gauntlet to Trump. I think even a week ago, I'm trying to remember when the war started, everyone, my sources that I was talking to was thinking of him as the front runner then. And I think what it symbolises, obviously, is continuity more than anything else. So Mojtaba Khamenei, he's 56 years old, so he's pretty sprightly and young for a supreme leader, and he is not only a senior cleric, he's very, very close to the Revolutionary Guards. He's very powerful. He also has this kind of huge business empire, which was revealed by Bloomberg a while ago. A £100 million empire, including assets in the Persian Gulf. He's got luxury property in Britain. So he's religiously significant, which is he's a senior cleric. He's very well connected within the clerical establishment, which is really, really important in Iran and something that President Trump ignores at his absolute peril. And he's also very, very politically well connected. He's close to the Revolutionary Guards, and he's got this huge amount of money that he's built up across the world.
You're in Lebanon right now. We were talking there about 400 Lebanese people have been killed in strikes and clashes so far. What is it like where you are?
So I'm in Beirut at the moment, but throughout the last week, I've been reporting from across the country, particularly in the south. And so more than 400 people have been killed, but also, hundreds of thousands of people have been displaced. And that's what's so striking. Basically, in the last week, then, Israel has gone out and issued what it calls evacuation orders, which is basically huge swathes of the country, of a neighboring country, where Israel just says everyone has to leave. And then there's an area in the south next to the border, which is about the size of the West Midlands, which they've called to just completely empty out. And then it also includes the southern suburbs of Beirut, which is probably one of the most intensely populated places in Lebanon, but in the Middle East. This is huge. It's kind of half the city. Just from one day to another, Israel the IDF just sends these kind of social media posts telling everyone there to leave. And Lebanon's a very small country. It's already about a year ago there was another war between Israel and Hezbollah here, which displaced 1.2 million people. So these 300,000 people are being displaced into a country where there's already so many other people on the move. Lebanon, of course, is riven with these kind of sectarian tensions. There's a lot of tensions between communities. So what you have is effectively very large numbers of Shia people displaced into other parts of the country. So it's incredibly tense.
Where are they going to?
They don't really have anywhere to go. So a lot of people are trying to come to other parts of Beirut. It's seen as being safer. Particularly Christian areas are seen as being safer. But there's tensions because people in Christian areas are worried about large numbers of displaced people coming in here because they believe that they could be linked to Hezbollah, or that Hezbollah fighters could be hiding among them.
And what is Israel's overall aim? Has that been discussed? Is there any indication of the duration, or what would be a success, or what would end this particular stage in the conflict?
So Israel says it wants to create a buffer zone to protect itself from Hezbollah attacks, and Israel and Hezbollah has fired rockets into northern Israel, and then so that this kind of back and forth fire, which has lasted more than a year between Israel and Hezbollah. I mean, there was this kind of the shaky ceasefire, which never really worked. It's now escalating again. Israel says it wants to create a buffer zone. It says it wants to be safe from Hezbollah attacks. But effectively, what it's doing is clearing out, forcibly displacing huge numbers of people from large areas in Lebanon, who are then flowing into other parts of the country where they're not really wanted.
Yeah, and I suppose that question of how long this goes on for and what is the end point is the big unanswered one at the moment. Louise, thank you very much for joining us on the programme this morning.
Thanks.
That is Louise Callaghan there, speaking to us live from Lebanon. She's the Sunday Times foreign correspondent.
And Pete Hegseth used the phrase "just the beginning," a thing that Trump has said once or twice as well, and it's a matter of weeks. But this rise in energy prices, Trump saying it's a small price to pay, and only a fool would disagree. But only a fool would think that you can solve a problem like the difficulties in the Middle East in a matter of weeks from dropping bombs from the air. That's certainly an argument that it's very difficult to achieve that. So at what point does Trump have to recognise with political and economic reality? Because Matthew's asked the question, what's the effect on the midterms? And the midterms are in November. If there is an inflationary effect of all of this, that might well be kicking in the autumn, when Trump will want to get votes.
Yeah, although I wouldn't underestimate the power of that patriotic America is doing something that, is benefit. I mean, I was speaking to a couple of Americans about this from different sides of the political spectrum who live out in the States. And when you ask about the Iranian conflict, the first thing they talk about is women's rights. They say that America is sticking up for women, who've been oppressed by a regime that forces them to cover from head to toe.
That's rubbish.
But it's swallowing, it may well be swallowing a particular line, but it's interesting that that's being fed back from people who are very supportive of what Trump is doing. Now, I think you're right, there will be a limit to how long that support will go on for. And there were a couple of really interesting pieces in the Sunday Times this weekend about what defines a victory and how does Trump define a victory. There is also a tension between Israel's aims and Donald Trump's aims here.
Which we talked about last week, didn't we?
We talked a little last week, and we've heard from Donald Trump over the last couple of hours saying Israel and America will negotiate the end of the war together, so it will be a joint decision. But it's not necessarily true that Benjamin Netanyahu's aims and his idea of a success, it correlates exactly with what Donald Trump thinks.
It's such a good point. I mean, the way that Trump works is that he asserts success anyway. So the way I think this will end is they'll get to a point where they can go no further. But if this regime is still in place, he's not a regime change guy, Trump. And he's not trying. I mean, he didn't achieve regime change in Venezuela, and there's not been a regime change in Iran. This new Ayatollah it's the same regime, isn't it? So he'll have to declare a success at somewhere, and maybe the success will be, and it's a legitimate one, that Iranian capability has been massively degraded, and that's what Israel wants, and maybe that's the success. But is that in 2 weeks' time? Is it in 1 week time? Is it in 4 months? 4 weeks' time? That seems to be an intriguing question to still be asking this morning.